So today we're meeting to examine the role of the Bureau of Indian Education in serving American Indian and Alaska Native students. The federal government has trust responsibility to Indian tribes bound by both the United States Constitution and moral responsibility. Education is a core part of this obligation. Unfortunately, our commitment to faithfully educate and support American Indian and Alaska Natives, or AIAN, students have been marred by generations of abuse and neglect. A report released last month from the Department of Interior on federal Indian boarding schools from 1820 to 1969 found a history of low quality education, militarized strategies to erase the identity of AIAN students, and physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. Tragically, these actions carried out by the people entrusted to educate our children likely contributed to the deaths of at least 500 American Indians and Alaska Native students. Today, the Bureau of Education, or the BIE, has a key role to play in fulfilling the federal government's commitment to providing a high-quality education to AIAN students. BIE schools honor ancestors and sustain traditions, signaling to students that they belong in school. Research shows that students from underrepresented backgrounds, including AIAN students, have higher achievement rates when cultural specific elements were incorporated into their curriculum. Despite the importance of BIE schools, American Indian and Alaskan Native students are still in need of educational resources and support. A 2021 study showed that BIE students perform more than 2 grade levels below the national average. Even when compared to AIAN public school students, BIE students were still roughly 1/3 of a grade level behind. And research confirms that AIAN students experience higher than average rates of depression and suicide. Unfortunately, the pandemic only compounded the consequences of our multi-generational neglect of AIAN students. During the pandemic, Native Americans lost their lives at higher rates compared to other demographics in the United States. Student achievement declined and mental health challenges worsened. The loss of tribal members inflicted an immeasurable loss to Native Americans' traditions and languages. Now more than ever, the education and future of American Indian and Alaskan Native students and communities fall on the strength of BIE-funded schools. To that end, over the past 2 years, congressional Democrats have secured historic investments in education, including $990 million in dedicated funding to help AIAN students get back on track. BIE schools can use these funds to protect the health and safety of students and staff, address learning loss, and support students' social and emotional needs. However, we know these investments alone will not solve the underlying issues that BIE schools face. According to the studies conducted by the Government Accountability Office, poor management and accountability challenges have prevented BIE from repairing dilapidated school facilities, fully serving students with disabilities, and meeting students' academic and mental health needs. Today, we have an opportunity to examine the steps BIE is taking to fulfill its responsibility to students. I'm committed to securing sustained and strategic investments to ensure BIE can improve its operations and address the urgent challenges facing AIAN students. For example, President Biden's budget proposal for fiscal year 2023 called for $1.6 billion for the BIE, a $500 million increase above the fiscal year 2022 enacted level, including more than $890 million for K-12 education. These investments are not only critical to the education of our nation's students, but to the future of American Indian and Alaska Native communities and our constitutional commitment to them. So thank you again, Director Dearman, for your service to AIAN students, and I look forward to our discussions alongside Ms. Shirwa of the Government Accountability Office. Thank you, and I now recognize Ranking Member